Welcome into Motorsports Monday. August was the biggest month of the year for dirt racing here in Kentucky, but September isn't far behind, especially for the modifieds. We had the modifieds on the mountain last week at Thunder Mountain Speedway. This past weekend, though, Rockcastle Speedway hosted the Sandy Adams Memorial. And it was a packed house with a loaded field of cars at the Rock Saturday night. Rockcastle Speedway is a 3/8 mile dirt track oval located just outside of Mount Vernon. We somehow dodged the rain Saturday night, and that allowed for drivers from all over the region to make the trip to Rockcastle County. With so many cars, it did make for a late night, so I wasn't able to stay for the feature races, but had a great time nonetheless. The headliner of the night was the first annual Sandy Adams Memorial, with $5,000 going to the winner of the open-wheeled modified race, and that winner was Owensboro's own Cole Falloway, who had his ride hooked up and was putting down a blistering pace all evening long, and he eventually was able to get the win there. Here's a look at the other feature winners. Liberty's own Shane Irvin picks up his first ever Pro Late Model win. Jimmy Robinson out of Richmond takes the Super Stock win and his first career feature win at Rockcastle Speedway. Jacob Lutz won the Mini Stocks race, and Jacob Todd takes the Hornets feature. On to NASCAR now, the Cup Series at Kansas Speedway for the Hollywood Casino 400. This track has turned into one of the most exciting on the schedule. Early trouble for the regular season points champion Martin Truex Jr. He blows a tire and slams into the wall. In the process, you can clearly see the front tires aren't aligned, and he would have to get his car towed to the garage, ending his day after only 4 laps of racing. Truex now with back-to-back disappointing races to start the playoffs after being one of the favorites just a few weeks ago. Into the stage now, and last week's winner Kyle Larson gets the Stage 1 win, followed by the Toyotas and Bubba Wallace and Christopher Bell. In Stage 2, Larson pits late in the stage while most of the others stay out. This gives the lead to Brad Keselowski, and Keselowski is able to hold off Denny Hamlin to pick up the much-needed playoff point. Brad's team, RFK Racing, continues to impress to start the playoffs. Hamlin also slowly working his way to the front after starting the race mid-pack. Onto the final stage now after a long green flag run that the race seemed to be in the bag for Denny Hamlin until Chris Buescher blows a tire and brings out the caution, setting up NASCAR overtime. Hamlin pits for 4 tires while the others take 2, putting them ahead of Hamlin. Coming to 1 lap to go now, Tyler Reddick, who had been just behind Denny for much of the final stage, makes a fantastic move, going 3 wide and passing Joey Logano and Eric Jones. Reddick is able to put enough distance between him and Hamlin to get the win and locks himself in the next round of the playoffs. Here's a look at the top 5 from this one. Denny Hamlin, who had the lead for most of the final stage before that late race caution, finishes second. Surprise here in 3rd place, Eric Jones finishes 3rd, with last week's winner Kyle Larson finishing 4th after dominating much of the first half of the race. Joey Logano rounds out the top 5 and ends up with a great points day. Speaking of those points, here's a look at your NASCAR Cup Series playoff standings with 1 race left in the first round. Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick are the only 2 drivers locked into the next round. If Denny Hamlin and William Byron can avoid disaster next week, they should easily move on through. The cut line is where things get interesting. Remember, only 12 move on to the next round. The regular season points champs Martin Truex Jr. finds himself below the cut line after 2 disappointing finishes to start the playoffs. Bubba Wallace, Ricky Stenhouse, and Michael McDowell may be put in a must-win situation next week to advance. And next week's race is at Bristol Speedway on Saturday. Are you headed down to Eastern Kentucky for this one? Let me know. I'd love to see how many local fans are heading there for one of the most iconic racing nights in all of NASCAR. Next Monday, we'll have highlights from that race at Bristol, plus a preview of a big weekend coming up at the end of the month at Richmond. All that and more next week in Motorsports Monday.